p.m., and I respectfully ask everyone to remain muted unless you're recognized to speak. Thank you all for joining us this evening, both in person and remote. As the board has moved to in-person meetings for our monthly gatherings, please note that committee meetings of the RTD board will still be held remotely via Zoom and will be audio and video recorded. The meeting recordings, along with the unofficial minutes of the meetings, will be posted as soon as practicable on the board's website. You can visit rtd-denver.com, and a live stream of this meeting is also available via RTD's YouTube page. Director Harwick, could you please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Director Rosenthal, would you please read the land acknowledgement?
Thank you, Madam Chair. The RTD Board of Directors acknowledges that the land in which our buses and trains operate is the traditional territory of the Ute, Cheyenne, Arapaho, and other contemporary tribal nations that are historically tied to these lands. We honor our indigenous elders who have traveled, inhabited, and stewarded these mountains, hills, and plains throughout generations. May this acknowledgement demonstrate a commitment to working to dismantle the ongoing legacies of inequity of the Native and all historically oppressed peoples, and recognize their current and future contributions in the district as we move forward. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll now call the roll. Director Bouquet?
Present.
Director Broom?
Present.
Director Busick?
Here.
First Vice Chair Catlin? Here. Second Vice Chair Eric Davidson?
Here.
Treasurer Deschelle?
Here.
Director Guzman?
Here.
Director Harwick?
Here.
Director Rosenthal?
Present.
Director Rusha? Director Rusha, I know she was planning to attend by Zoom. Is she? She's present. Okay. Thank you. Director Sloan?
Here.
Director Tisdale?
Present.
Director Whitmore?
Present.
Director Williams?
Good evening. I am here.
And I am Lynn Geisinger. I am here. With 15 present and 0 absent, we have a quorum. There are no retiree awards for this evening, no retirees. The next retiree recognition will occur at the September 26th board meeting. Next is our public participation period, which is open to anyone who would like to address the board. As we have both in-person and remote attendees, in-person comments will go first, followed by those who are participating remotely. In addition, I will ask that we take elected officials first so that they can get back to their business of governing. For those attending in person, please come to the podium when your name is called. If you've not already signed up to speak and would like to do so, please approach the podium when I call for any additional speakers. For those attending virtually, if you wish to speak and have not already done so, please raise your virtual hand or press *9 on your phone. Staff will unmute you when it's your turn to speak. If you're dialed in, press *6 to toggle your mute settings. Please bear in mind that by participating in this process, you are being recorded. If you do not wish to be recorded, then your comments will have to be submitted in writing. If any speaker has documentation or reference materials for the board, or if any member of the public would like to submit written comments, please email those materials to rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. During this time, the board will not offer any direct comments or responses. However, if you would like to be contacted regarding your public comment, please email the RTD board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com. Speakers, please begin your remarks by stating your name, and you'll have up to 3 minutes to provide comments. Our first speaker tonight is the Mayor of Longmont, Mayor Peck. Please go ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair Geisinger and board directors. Naturally, I will start this way. I'm Joan Peck, Mayor of Longmont. I'm here to advocate for a few things in support of RTD and your path forward. First of all, please vote yes to adopt the new fare schedule. I'm very excited about that. Thank you for the partnership application that we submitted to RTD for the partnership in Longmont. The dollars that might bring will help bring local transit to Longmont to augment our RTD free ride service. I've been a Longmont City Council person for 6 years and mayor for 2 years. I'm here on behalf of our community to ask you to restore our LX1, one-seat ride peak service to Denver. Longmont's a city of 101,000 people, and we have been waiting for the LX1 bus service to be restored. I want to say we are not Boulder. Boulder County does not advocate for Longmont on this specific ask. We are a totally different demographic. We have a higher median income than Boulder. We have gained residents, whereas Boulder has lost residents. US 36 and all the frequent flyer buses is all Longmont hears about. Quite frankly, it gets to be annoying because it doesn't always serve us. Please think out of the box on how LX1 can be restored sooner than later. I'm very excited that Boulder County received the $25 million raise grant for Highway 119 and other transit projects. In the community presentations that we gave on Highway 119, the main interest in those attending those presentations was the bike trail, not the road or the BRT. They're very interested in the bike trail. RTD's customers come from Longmont, Weld, and Larimer County. They have to come through Longmont to get to Highway 119, which of course goes to Boulder. Some of the customers that took the LD and the LX1 are in the customer count for Highway 119. Why aren't they in the customer count for the LX1? We are left with no other choice but to go to Boulder, and not everyone wants to go to Boulder. They want to go to where their jobs are in a one-seat ride, which is Lafayette, Louisville, Broomfield. I understand the predicament RTD is under because of the poor management of past directors. Deborah Johnson inherited a mess and then was struck with a two-year pandemic. I really feel for her. RTD under Deborah's management and her finance team is turning this around. However, it takes time and money. To that point, I have raised the question of a possible transportation fee on events in the state of Colorado, or at least in the Front Range. It would include ski tickets, professional sports events, Denver Center for the Performing Arts, et cetera, et cetera. We've gotten traction, or I've gotten traction on the idea with state legislators as well as county mayors, and I would like input from RT directors if you are willing. Last but not least, please encourage BNSF to finish the complete analysis of the Northwest Corridor in early 2024. The Fast Tracks vote in 2004 became a law when it was passed. It's not really an option. So thank you for letting me address these issues. Good evening.
Thank you, Mayor Peck. We appreciate you coming down. Our next speaker is Gary Van Dorn.
Hello, I'm Gary Van Dorn. I reside in District A at 625 North Pennsylvania Street, Denver, Colorado, 80203. This annoying little button. There we go. In principle, I support the structure. However, I do have a concern about budget. I always have and I always will. RTD has long-term budget constraints. The pension plan is in serious trouble, and that needs to be stabilized. Also, what Mayor Peck brought up also as a concern. My concern is with the reduced fare structure, where are you going to get the money from? Where's it going to come from? Money, unfortunately, does not come from thin air or from imagination. It comes from hard work and fares and other type revenues. And my fear is that over time, routes could be cut or services for people with disabilities up in Longmont could not get the bus up there if we want to go up there. And Mayor Peck is right, not all of us do want to go to Boulder. So that is my concern. So if someone from RTD could contact me to discuss how the revenue is going to be made up, I'd greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Van Dorn. Please be sure, I think they do have your email. I think we're set to reach out. Curtis Chong.
Good evening, Chairman Geisinger, members of the RTD Board. My name is Curtis Chong. I reside in Aurora, Colorado. I believe I'm in District E. I am totally blind, and I've been living in Colorado since the summer of 2018. I would first of all like to say that I do hope that the RTD Board votes in favor of the new fare structure. I understand Mr. Van Dorn's concern about revenue and service cuts, but I sat on your fare equity panel, and I think the work is very good, so please do that. I have 30 seconds to talk about the next issue that I want to bring up as a totally blind bus and train rider. I hope one day that RTD will give serious attention to the voice quality that is in the buses and at the light rail stations. As matters now stand, the speech synthesis that is used on the buses is often difficult to understand, partly because of its pitch and partly because of its emphasis. And it is not uncommon for a noisy bus to make it impossible for a blind passenger to know where the bus is stopping. At the train stations, it's even more embarrassing. Whatever speech engine you folks are using at the train stations, nobody can understand them, even if they have super hearing like Clark Kent. I would hope that the day will come, and I have worked with text-to-speech technology since 1980, and I am now not working for somebody else. I don't want to work for RTD as a person who gets paid, but I do want to contribute my expertise and my audio pickiness, as it were, to help you guys to pick better audio for the systems that you do. And I thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chong. We appreciate your and other feedback. Is there anyone else in the room that is wishing to speak tonight before I go to the remote attendees? All right. Is anyone raised their virtual hand? Ms. McKinley, welcome. Ms. McKinley, are you there?
Yeah, good evening, y'all. Sorry about that.
No problem.
Good evening, y'all. Molly McKinley. I'm here tonight on behalf of the Denver Streets Partnership. I'm here to express our support for the final vote on the updates to the fare and pass structure. I want to thank General Manager Johnson for her leadership on this effort. I know it's been a priority for her since she started at RTD, and it's exciting to get it to the finish line tonight. I also want to thank Chair Geisinger and Director Whitmore, who served on the RTD Accountability Committee, which recommended that the fare and pass structure be simplified and that the General Assembly repeal the fare box recovery ratio to allow RTD to do so. RTD staff deserves a lot of kudos for this undertaking as well, especially Carl Green and Annette Hunter, who are champions for equity and community engagement throughout this entire process. DSP strongly encourages you all to vote yes tonight and approve these changes to the fare and pass structure. And because y'all know I have to sneak in a few asks somewhere, I strongly encourage you to continue to pursue opportunities to permanently fund free fares for youth and to continue to deepen discounts and expand access, lowering barriers to the discount programs for those who need access to affordable transit the most. Thanks, y'all.
Thank you, Ms. McKinley. Is there anybody else online who has raised their virtual hand?
Richard Bamber.
Mr. Bamber, are you there?
I'd like to point out that the Agency for Light Rail Grade Crossings does not provide highway flaggers. They have to do this if it was a commuter rail crossing. We need to be clear of that detail and clear if there are safety things ongoing for that. The good part of the light rail, Taylor Swift, all we wanted was the agency to really take it kind of seriously. There was communications, and that is despite an Empire Field that put out travel advice that didn't even mention RTD. So we still need to, encourage people to do that. The operation seemed to go pretty well. It was fantastic. I had a walk down to Empire Field after one of the concerts. I saw Stuart Summers, I saw Dave Jensen on the platforms, which was pretty unexpected, but very, very welcome. And there was a couple of little things you can all tighten up, but those guys saw it. No need to talk about it here. Fair study. I'm going to echo, yes, please vote and approve to it. It's great to have it finally over the line. Lots and lots of hard work, and certainly Great Endeavour Transit. We're very grateful to the efforts, particularly for GM Deborah Johnson, Carl Green, and all the other staff who have been involved in that. The work doesn't finish here. There are some great deals in the fair study. Let's start swinging for transit. $5.50 round trips to Boulder and Longmont. The airport, if you commute on RTD local bus every day, you get your airport travel for free under an $88 fare cap. There's, so lots and lots of deals. It's great to see the airport workers will soon also be paying the same as other RTD riders as well. Much simpler, so many good stories, including an incredible deal for low-income riders with day disabilities and seniors, $27 fare cap a month. One thing we'd like to talk about is smart cards. I think clearly all this sort of fare capping and magic sort of math, which the new fare system does, you don't get to take advantage if you don't have a MyRide card or a phone. For the MyRide, the concern is that getting those distributed to particularly low-income residents who use cash. I have a collection of smart cards from around America, Chicago, New York, Philadelphia, Miami, Atlanta, and then there's even Singapore, London. All of these I showed up at the local airport, bought from a ticket vending machine, and I had a choice of using cash or credit or debit. We absolutely should expand the availability. I understand, as in the fair study, King Soopers and Safeway are currently not going to have the MyRide, and it's going to be a future thing to increase the retail availability of the smart cards, particularly at places that take cash for low-income people. I encourage the agency to carry on with that, and so we can absolutely make sure that we truly got an amazingly affordable and equitable fare system. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Bamber. We appreciate you coming. That's it? No one else? Okay, is there anyone else who wishes to speak? All right, not seeing anyone, we will close the public comment period at this point. Our next session, our next part of the agenda is the external entities reports. This month we have 3 external entity reports. The first report is from the Accessoride Paratransit Advisory Committee, or APAC. Ms. Julie Jennings, please start when you are ready.
Hi, my name is Julie Jennings. I'm a member of the ACPD and the APAC. We had a joint meeting on July 11th. I'll be summarizing the APAC portion. The QRide software and mobile portal launch that's replacing Route Match. RTD is reaching out to the people who volunteered to do a second beta test on the modal portal before they relaunch. We're going to report on the RTD fare study. The board committee reviewed the recommended fares and programs, and hopefully this evening you will review and potentially approve that fare study, that fare restructure. Call center RFP process status update. The solicitation received 2 proposals from TransDev, formerly First Transit, and from C Experts. During the July 25th RTD board meeting, the directors will consider the staff's recommendation to award the call center contract to TransDev. APAC members will then be given an opportunity to visit the call center, observe the operation, and offer recommendations relative to providing staff some sensitivity training. The Accessoride new contracts vendors started on July 1st. 3 new vendor contracts started July 1st with MTM Transdev for accessible vehicles and Transdev On Demand for non-accessible vehicles. The 4 previous vendors were MV, Transdev, Transdev On Demand, and VIA. Access On Demand services. These are curb-to-curb services provided by Uber, Lyft, Z-Trip, and Metro Transportation. It's on demand, same day only. The voucher program does not allow scheduling in advance. An Accessoride customer can enroll in the program with RTD and then sign up directly with the Access On Demand vendors web-based service for 1 or more vendors. There were some challenges at peak times, especially July 4th weekend. RTD has a large service area. It's hard to ensure a vehicle is always in range. If a vehicle isn't available, the customer has to call dispatch. There's dedicated dispatchers for Access On Demand. The dispatcher will review the transit dashboard and see where available drivers are located or where drivers may become available soon. And they can advise callers to resubmit based on their data. Customers must book the Access On Demand trip before calling dispatch so that dispatch can see the trip on their system. There's been a problem with the acceptance of service animals. It's still an issue on Uber. Some Uber drivers are dropping trips when they see an animal before they actually arrive to pick up the customer. It does not seem to be a problem with Lyft. RTD is aware of this ongoing issue and revisits it regularly. I have an update post-meeting. The voucher now covers Uber Pet, and this should alleviate much of that problem. Additional passenger protocols. It was asked, can an Access On Demand rider bring an additional people on their ride? Typically, it's 2 people, the Accessoride rider and a caregiver. As an update, Wave Rides, wheelchair accessible vehicles, can now accommodate up to 4 passengers instead of 2. The airport pickup and drop off, curbside or Island 5, there was a question asked. Curbside cannot be requested in the Access On Demand web systems, but riders can text the driver directly and the airport allows pickup curbside. Uber, Wave, and paratransit vehicle drop off and pickup is on level 6 only. All others are on level 5. Access On Demand website information is working to be improved. RTD is working with their marketing team to improve Accessoride website, improving visibility of and access to Access On Demand information. On a positive note, there were many satisfied customers with Access On Demand. The Access On Demand ridership rose from 15% of all paratransit trips during the pilot to over 40% of all paratransit trips in June. Several members of APAC use the service regularly and greatly appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Jennings. That's great feedback and we appreciate it. The second report is from the Advisory Committee for People with Disabilities, or ACPD. Mr. Earl Lee, please begin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you were just told, the APAC and ACPD had a joint meeting on July 11th. I think it was a very interesting meeting. I opened up with a discussion about the rededication of Civic Center and the Gang of 19. I wanted to make sure that everyone in the room understood the value and the importance of how the disabled community, RTD, promoted what ultimately became the ADA that we now live by, actually. I thought it was a very good presentation, and I hope that there are more like that in the future. During that discussion, Director Williams showed appreciation for the comments, and one person, Joe Beaver, being very familiar with Reverend Blank, suggested that Civic Center be renamed in honor of Reverend Blank. No discussion was continued after that. The next point of business, I apologize to the group for not insisting on more input from the ACPD group, in particular on the Respect the Ride program. I think that is a good start, but I think there are some areas that could use some improvement. So I have asked the group to get back to me with anything that they see within I asked them to do a deep dive into the Respect the Ride and come back to me with anything that they feel could be improved with regards to the disabled community. We then got a update on elevators, which seemed to be a continuing concern. In particular, one elevator that is frequently down is the Inglewood elevator, which is not an RTD managed unit. However, RTD gets blamed for it every time it's down. We were told in that particular instance that the elevator repair company refused to service the elevator until the city of Inglewood had the car completely cleaned. I have to assume that it was similar to the restrooms at Civic Center. It's just something we all have to, I guess, live with. And we just continue to discuss the elevator situation, I'm trying to make the point of how important that these elevators are to those of us who use wheelchairs, not only to those of us who use wheelchairs, but also elderly that have arthritis, or people who are taking their children someplace in a carrier. There's a lot of people that really have a need for these elevators, so we're trying to work through some of those issues. Finally, we are excited to plan an orientation for some new members in August. And we'll give you more information on that when we get to that point, but we're excited to see some new blood come into the ACPD, and I think it will help improve our ability to provide good content to the board. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Our final report is from the Citizens Advisory Committee, or the CAC. Mr. John Fusa, you are on.
Thank you, Chair Geisinger and members of the board, for the chance to update you on the CAC this evening. Very briefly, the CAC held its July meeting on July 13th. And among the topics on our agenda were an introduction with Jack Kroll, who's new to the staff as executive manager of the RTD board office. So we were pleased to meet him, hear about his background, and look forward to working with him in the future and developing a strong working relationship. We also had an update from RTD staff on the Zero Fare for Better Air program and initiative. And that is one that the CAC has had the chance to be briefed on, express our support, and we applaud the board and the organization for bringing that initiative back and expanding it from 1 month to 2 months. And we look forward a few months down the road to hearing the results and potential impact of the expanded 2-month effort this summer. as well. We, on tonight's agenda, as you know, one of your big items is the recommendation for the fare structure related to the system-wide fare study and equity analysis. The CAC had the chance and benefited from presentations from RTD staff about that project and that initiative. So we're very thankful to RTD staff and consultants for providing the CAC with updates, giving the CAC, myself included, the chance to provide comments and input. And we applaud the board and RTD for undertaking that effort. And we very much support it at the CAC, and we urge the board to vote to approve the recommended fare structure out of that project and applaud your efforts in that regard. We think it will be a big benefit to the district and all the users and stakeholders of the system and of the district. We also have had prior discussion about RTD sub-regional service councils, and as the board and staff know, the partner that results or ties into the RTD partnership program with local entities. There was a partnership program call for projects with a due date earlier this month in, I believe, July 7th. Again, the CAC has had the chance to be briefed on that effort by RTD staff. We applaud the organization and the board for undertaking that effort. We do appreciate in this era of scarce resources that there's some real money in the partnership program call for projects and applaud the board's willingness to undertake that outreach to your member communities. We've heard both at the CAC, it's been well received. I happen to work in planning and community development in my spare time, and it's also been well received in the district at the local level. So kudos to the board and the district on that effort. And we support it at the CAC and hope that will be successful in future years going forward. And then lastly, in July and at prior meetings, as the board knows from Matt Applebaum's update in June, the CAC has been discussing with staff and consultants whether it's time to engage in a larger discussion between the CAC and the board or a component of each body about the CAC's mission, its role, and how it might organize itself through bylaws. So this is a topic of I think, substantial importance to the CAC and its individual members, myself included. We've been advised that the board is both willing and able to engage with the CAC in a conversation about the CAC's mission, role, and structure, including bylaws going forward. So we very much, as Matt may have indicated last month, would both ask the board to commit to beginning that conversation and process as soon as possible. We would request that begin, if at all possible, navigating schedules and other competing priorities, that conversation start in September. And the CAC thinks that it can, if it starts in September and it's a focused conversation, that certainly can wrap up not later than the end of the year. And we think it's very important for the future functioning of the CAC to be able to provide input to staff and the board where appropriate. So I would request Chair Geisinger and board members that you commit to starting that dialogue and conversation with the CAC in an appropriate manner to be determined by you with input from staff and hopefully CAC by the end of September, so we can conclude it by December. Matt Applebaum and I, as co-chairs, also believe it would be most appropriate to structure that conversation with subcommittees because both boards are large. That would be a very large, perhaps unwieldy conversation. We would certainly like to start that conversation and recommend or suggest for your consideration a subcommittee approach to get the ball rolling. And that's it. Thanks, Chair Geisinger. Thanks, members of the board. Have a good evening.
Thank you, Mr. Fusa. And I was in conversation with Mr. Applebaum this weekend, texting, I guess, and we will be moving the conversation forward with the CAC in the near future. So thank you all for coming, and thank you all for your service on RTD's committees. Those are all very important committees to our functioning. We're now moving on to our committee reports. Our Tabor Ad Hoc Committee is the first one. Director Broom, do you have anything you would like to report?
I don't have an update committee report this evening. The only thing I might suggest is that we ask our legislative lobbyists to either come before us or give us something in writing about the impact that HH might have on RTD and on the taxing system in Colorado in general, so that we could be better apprised of what impacts we might have to deal with going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Broom. I've made a note of that, and we can talk with Mr. Davies as well and try to do that in the near future. You know, I was just going to say, I can't see Ms. Rusha if she holds her hand up, but I do see her now, and her hand is up. Ms. Rusha, did you have something to add to that?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I apologize. My video is not working, and that should be fixed shortly. I did want to concur with Director Broom that it might be advisable to see if HH would impact future revenues, but I just wanted to just state, to my knowledge, the board does not have a position, or this body, the policy body, does not have a position on debrucing or other Tabor-related matters. And that is something that might come before us in the future. And so I just wanted to put out there, it might be something that we want to consider a study session on, so that we can discuss that as a body, as it might come up.
Great, well taken. I think we have been considering something along those lines. Thank you. Audit Committee report, Committee Chair DeShell.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Audit Committee met on July 7th to review the 2022 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, which is on the unanimous consent this evening. I want to commend CFO Doug McLeod. We received a clean audit. As you all may be aware, RTD is required to be audited under both state and federal and contractual obligations. And this is our external audit, not to be confused with our internal audit, who completed this for us. Just wanted to read out, for everyone's edification, a few really great statements from the audit, and specifically related to management of the agency. During 2022, fiscal year 2022, GASB 87 was adopted, which is a change to the accounting, or an implementation of the policy related to accounting, specifically related to leases, of which RTD has many. There were no findings. There were no difficulties encountered in performing the audit. There were no disagreements with management regarding financial auditing, reporting, or other matters. This is about as good of an audit report as you can get on the financial side. And so I really want to commend Mr. McLeod and that entire team and the leadership team for working hard with our auditors to generate a great report. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we all agree with that our finance team and our CFO, Mr. McLeod, have been doing great work. Committee Chair Tisdale, do you have anything to report from the Finance and Planning Committee?
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. The Finance and Planning Committee met on July 11th, and we had 5 different matters that came before us, all of which passed out of committee unanimously, and 4 of which are on the consent agenda. The one that passed out unanimously that has been moved to recommended action in order to allow an opportunity for, quite honestly, because it is historical, it is monumental, an opportunity for us to blow our horn, to acknowledge this and to announce it and to celebrate it. And that, of course, is the fair structure. And we will not be meeting in the month of August. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Operations and Safety Committee, Committee Chair Williams.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Operations and Safety Committee met on July 12th virtually. We had no external entity reports. We had 4 recommended actions in a very packed meeting. Most of those, I think all of those, will come to the board tonight. The Title VI Service Equity Analysis, the September service changes, the accessorized call center contract, and the, okay, help me out here, Dan, PTASP, Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan. Following all of those and some discussion on those, we had a really, really relevant HR update that the committee appreciated very much. And we will note in closing that we also will not meet in August. Our next meeting will be at the same time and the same location on September 13th.
Thank you. Performance Committee, Committee Chair Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I may, I just want to update colleagues a little bit about what's going on in the Performance Committee and have a few requests. The Performance Committee met on July 17th. We had 2 discussion items. The first was adopting a compensation philosophy, and the second was discussing our performance evaluation process of our CEO and general manager. First of all, we reviewed a proposed compensation philosophy for the board to adopt for the CEO and general manager position. I'd like to extend the committee's gratitude, certainly my gratitude, to Chief People Officer Charlene Pelegi for her generous assistance in this matter with the committee in drafting what I think is a very good compensation philosophy, as well as to our executive manager of the board office, Jack Kroll, for helping to consolidate all of the feedback that was heard from committee members. We did have a discussion around this compensation philosophy. We made the decision for this to be a discussion item so that we could have some time to collect feedback on this. However, the thing we need to be mindful of that is we absolutely need to adopt one in September. So by having this as a discussion item in July, we haven't left time for a lot of revision. So this is where my request is. I'd like to request that the board office send the draft to all of the board members here, and that if you have any comments, concerns, or questions about it, that you please reach out to the board office, and please feel free to copy me as well to provide that feedback. During the discussion, the committee felt very strongly that it had captured what our intents were in the previous discussions. Dr. Guzman did have some very helpful input about incorporating our mission a little bit more closely in the draft. Beyond that, we did discuss the performance evaluation process. We had a good discussion with our current CEO and general manager as to where there are opportunities to improve this performance process. Some of the themes that came up was creating an evaluation process that is more consistent, that is more direct to the general manager, ensuring that we don't lose things in translation, as happened with anonymous feedback last time around, that we have some continuity across this process, that we provide some additional structure, and that the committee garner trust with the general manager by making and holding commitments on the feedback. We had a discussion around what that might look like. We generally agreed that we have our work cut out for us for both a long-term view of what we might want to do in 2024 and beyond for the position, but we do have to deliver a higher quality feedback process than we did last year with the weighted success outcomes and values that were already adopted for the prior year. Again, I would invite any board members that have ideas or contributions or comments to make to please reach out to the committee. We had a discussion around perhaps having more frequent engagement with the general manager, that the performance committee might meet on perhaps a quarterly basis. We discussed monthly, we discussed twice a year, in addition to having our annual, more formal evaluation. I just also lastly just want to highlight that something that has come up is that we have a little bit of a risk in the performance committee. It reminds me of the work that we had to do on the audit committee, in that the committee does turn over on an annual basis. And I think one of the reasons we've had some false starts on our performance evaluation process is that we do restart the process with sometimes new committee members each year. I put that forward as something that we consider as a board. It did come up at the executive committee last week as well, and was suggested that perhaps we have this discussion around other committees to ensure that we have long-term working plans while we know that the current board is in place. So with that, thank you for allowing me to go on a little bit longer on the report. Again, please extend any feedback. Let's use the month of August to get performance right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Davidson, and thank you all for your reports. Are there any questions on the reports? Seeing none, I think. We'll move on to approval of the board meeting minutes and committee reports. The board and committee minutes were included in the board packet. Director Rusha has requested 3 administrative changes to the June 27th board meeting minutes. Those changes are inclusion of the full text of the distributed amendments to the Code of Conduct and suspension policy, the addition of a missing sentence to a motion to amend the Code of Conduct, and the inclusion of the several motions and votes to conclude debate. As that will take staff some time to complete, I'm going to postpone the approval of the June 27 board meeting minutes to the September board meeting. Not including the June full board meeting minutes, are there any other corrections from the directors for the minutes to be approved this evening? Okay. Seeing none, unless there is objection to considering the minutes all at the same time, may I please have a motion to approve the minutes for the following meetings: June 26, 2023 Performance Committee, July 7, 2023 Audit Committee, July 11, 2023 Finance and Planning Committee, July 12, 2023 Operations and Safety Committee, July 17, 2023 Performance Committee, and July 20th, 2023 Executive Committee.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion from Director Williams and a second from Director Rosenthal. Is there any discussion on this motion? I'll now call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Okay. Seeing none, with 15 yes votes and 0 no votes and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. Okay. The next item. Sorry, my computer has shut down. Give me just a minute. I know. I'm just getting to it. The next item is the chair's report. First and foremost, we are, well, at least first, we are almost halfway through our Zero Fares for Better Air program that extends through July and August. Anecdotally, I'm hearing lots of people who are loving it. The buses seem like they are busy, and we appreciate the efforts of the governor's office and the legislature and the Colorado Energy Office, and working with us here at RTD to help lower the ground level ozone that peaks out in these summer months. So all of those who are here listening or elsewhere listening, I encourage you to take advantage, ride the bus, ride the train, ride Access-a-Ride. Everything is free through August 31st. I secondly would like to repeat the comments, I think, from Mr. Bamber earlier about the Taylor Swift concert in the Rockies game. I know that Mr. Dave Jensen and Stuart Summers were both out there till late at night, along with many other staff. And huge job, huge coordination, great job, and thank you. I see people wanting to clap. So. Thanks. As Mr. Earl Lee mentioned, on July 6th, our GM CEO, Ms. Johnson, and I spoke at the rededication of the plaque at Civic Center Station in honor of the Gang of 19 and Reverend Wade Blank. Directors Rosenthal, Williams, and Guzman attended. I don't think I missed anyone, but if I did, let me know. This celebrated in 1978, RTD had ordered 250 new buses that were not wheelchair accessible. And Wade Blank had been an activist, a community organizer. He had marched with Reverend Martin Luther King, and he was working here at Heritage House with the members of the disability community. And together they decided to put on a very public protest where they surrounded, this Gang of 19 surrounded a bus so it couldn't move for 24 hours. And over time, that turned RTD around to being a real leader in accessible vehicles. And ultimately, this movement led to the passage of the ADA and the change in disability protections in many areas. So that was a really, I thought it was a really great ceremony and opportunity to recognize that history and the successes. At our executive committee meeting, we discussed the fact that we need to update some of our board guidance documents. The board operating guidelines say they'll be reviewed annually, and some review is due. So we talked specifically about a couple of possible changes. One was to set a length of time that a board meeting would last unless the board votes to continue. That probably would be set at something like 4.5 or 5 hours. So a meeting that starts at 5:30 would end at 10 or 10:30 unless the board votes to continue. Another thing that came up briefly was how amendments should be, if there are multiple, should be presented perhaps 24 hours in advance. What the consensus was, I think, coming out of the executive committee was, let's have a conversation. So we are due, I think, for a study session, workshop, and would like to look at this. I think we will be looking at other parts of the guidance, the operating guidelines, just to review as we are required or suggested to do. And tomorrow, I believe the board office will be sending out a doodle poll to all of you to see if we can schedule something. It would be probably mid-September or mid-October on a Tuesday or Wednesday night when nothing else is scheduled. We also have some language that we've been discussing from Directors Williams, I believe Rosenthal and Tisdale, to underscore and work with the process of sending all requests for documents and information to the board office. And the idea is to make sure that we're getting everything recorded and organized. I think I really appreciate you moving that forward. After talking about it somewhat, I think we would like to do, and again, I'll be working with our board office, is work with App to Connect, which lets our board office talk to APTA people all around the country. Director Tisdale, I'm sure, could explain that very well. And you learn a bit about best practices for handling these requests. And also, we'll look at the best way to take advantage. We have good Salesforce system, the best way to take advantage of our technology in this process. So stay tuned. All of those issues will be coming back up in September for full board discussion. That's all I have. We'll go to Ms. Johnson's report unless anyone has any questions or comments. Ms. Johnson, our GM CEO report.
Yes, thank you very kindly, Madam Chair, and good evening to all of you that are assembled. As introduced, Deborah Johnson, General Manager and Chief Executive Officer. This evening, I will share with you information centered around the agency's strategic priorities. Regarding community value, I will discuss meetings and events in which I attended since the last regular board meeting, included an event hosted by the Federal Transit Administration regarding bus automation, the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials 2023 meeting conference, my attendance of Mayor Johnston's inauguration and other activities in which we've engaged with the administration, and NAPTA Awards Committee deliberation meeting. Also, in relation to community value, I will share information regarding a transit asset management best practice review meeting, RTD's participation in an interest conference with the Office of the State Auditor. Regarding customer excellence, I will discuss, now I won't because we've already talked about it, but the Gang of 19. We heard from Mr. Lee, the chair of the ACPD, as well as from Madam Chair just a moment ago. But speaking to employee ownership, I will touch upon the incredible efforts of staff surrounding our transit service delivery over the period of July 13th through the 16th, not only Taylor Swift, but as we know, the Rockies game in which they played the Yankees. And then I will touch upon something that's bittersweet, but want to pay homage to a member of RTD's leadership team. So before I begin my report, I want to address a recent series of inquiries, and we heard about it during the course of public comment in which Mr. Bamber touched upon. It's RTD has been receiving inquiries regarding the R-Line gate crossing in Aurora. Now, That happened more than a month ago, but I would be remiss not to take the opportunity to address it in a public session. The malfunction was related to the agency's supervisory control and acquisition, data acquisition, which we commonly refer to as SCADA. It's a system that we utilize for managing our rail network. When the agency recently migrated its new SCADA servers in early January, following the migration, we did have a network communications failure that impacted certain crossings along our line alignment. In those locations, the crossing arms entered into safe mode. Now, what that means is when they're in safe mode, the gate crossing arms lowered, and they remained lowered until such time as they could be restored to an automated operation. During the specific time when the gate crossings were malfunctioning, the traffic lights located at the impacted intersection were set to a 4-way flashing red signals. RTD does not provide traffic control and is not equipped or staffed to do so. Rather, the local police jurisdiction's traffic division provides this service in location where traffic signals are impacted. In this instance, RTD provided flaggers to monitor and to regulate train movement, not to provide traffic control for motorists or pedestrians. The Aurora Police Department was contacted and made aware of traffic conditions at the impacted crossings. To reiterate, RTD is neither staffed nor equipped to provide flaggers for vehicular traffic control because we provide transit services, and we basically traverse arterials and tracks within 40 municipalities and 8 counties. In the event of a rail system malfunction, traffic control remains in the purview of the municipal jurisdiction in which the malfunction occurs. The Colorado Public Utilities Commission, as you know, acts as our state safety oversight agency pursuant to the Federal Transit Administration's regulations. And that's with respect to light rail operations. Light rail operations are overseen by the CPUC per direction of the FTA, while commuter rail is overseen by the Federal Railroad Administration. So I just wanted to qualify that, as we've received correspondence to the contrary, and I believe oftentimes people do mistake our modes of transport on a rail network, because oftentimes I get inquiries, I take the light rail out to the airport. Well, that's commuter rail. And so I don't mean to be condescending, but I think it's important to qualify and to clarify in this forum. So with that as a backdrop, the CPUC, which approved and certified RTD's crossing design and functions, was made aware and is aware of the agency's operational protocols at crossings. Further, the CPUC was made aware of the gate crossing malfunction in Aurora, and the commission was provided with periodic updates. CPUC has not communicated any safety or operational issues concerning the agency's response in this instance. The gate crossing malfunction seemed to be resolved early on during the month of June, but the gates once again entered fail-safe mode shortly thereafter. The malfunction was finally resolved Tuesday, June 20th, and normally scheduled light rail service resumed Wednesday, June 21st. RTD staff was in frequent communication with representatives from the city of Aurora during the period of time when the gate crossings were malfunctioning. RTD issued service alerts, sent news releases, posted on social media about the situation. Moreover, information was shared with this body regarding the situation. Additionally, customer care employees were apprised of the situation so that they could respond to customer concerns. As I noted previously, RTD has just recently received media inquiries and communications from members of the public well after the issue has been resolved. It's been in excess of a month. 2 individuals reported separately that they witnessed unsafe events taking place at the R-line crossings whereby motorists engaged in unsafe or dangerous behaviors. In one instance, a person reports that motorists attempted to manually raise crossing gate arms, which suffice to say is incredibly dangerous. These reports only came to RTD's attention within the last few days, with the most recent arriving just yesterday evening on Monday, June 24th. I cannot stress enough that unsafe acts occurring on or in close proximity to the transit system should be reported immediately to the RTD Transit Police and Emergency Management Department so that they can be addressed in a timely manner. RTD PD can be contacted directly through Transit Watch app, available via the Apple and Google app stores, or via telephone at 303-299-2911. So with that, I will proceed with my monthly report. As it relates to community value, I was invited by Nuria Fernandez, who serves as the administrator of the Federal Transit Administration, to participate in FTA's Convening for Transit Bus Automation event in Washington, D.C. on Friday, June 30th. Representatives from transit agencies exploring or those that have explored or deployed automated bus transit technology join representatives from the U.S. Department of Transportation, as well as FTA, of course, to discuss issues and opportunities related to deploying automated transit buses and revenue service, such as research, planning, pilots and demonstrations, and regulatory and policy requirements. During the session, participants discussed key regulatory areas, including requirements, processes, and procedures related to federal motor vehicle safety standards, Buy America, as well as Build America, useful life and spare ratio, compliance with Americans' Disabilities Act of 1990, transit vehicle manufacturers and disadvantaged business enterprise goals, and bus testing and workforce. From Friday, July 7th through Monday, July 10th, I attended the Conference of Minority Transportation Officials National Meeting and Training Conference, which was held this year in LA. COMTO members represent public and private transportation industries, including transit, highways, railways, maritime, and aviation. COMTO's annual conference brings together industry leaders across all modes of transportation for 4 days of learning, training, and networking. This event is open to transportation professionals at all career levels, government employees, manufacturers, and suppliers. The theme for this year's conference was Transportation, the Great Connector, which resonated with me, as one might imagine. The annual CEO Summit was also convened during the course of the conference, wherein I was honored to be asked to facilitate a peer exchange among chief executives from across the country representing several transportation modes. On Monday, July 17th, I attended Mayor Johnston's inauguration, being the mayor of the city and county of Denver. Speaking on behalf of staff, I look forward to a productive working relationship between RTD and the Johnston administration in the days to come. As the board may be aware, Mayor Johnston began his term by signing an emergency declaration regarding houselessness on July 18th, 2023, with the goal of housing 1,000 individuals by the end of the year. The mayor's office has convened a working group to help identify solutions to this critical issue and has invited the agency to take part and lend assistance where possible. The group's discussions are still in the early stages, and while there are no specifics to report to the board at this time, I am, as well as staff, is committed to engaging with the new mayoral administration, and I will keep the board informed as RTD continues to work with Mayor Johnston and his staff. As you know, there's a clear-cut nexus as it relates to our role in reference to being interwoven into the fabrics of the community, and quite naturally, we've experienced residual impacts by those that are unhoused seeking, refuge on public rights of way. Later that day, I participated in a transit asset management best practice review sponsored by the Federal Transit Administration with direct support from the FTA's program contractor, AECOM. RTD is one of 10 entities selected to participate in this pilot program aimed at promoting best practices for transit asset management. During this meeting, the program partners shared the scope and timeline of their work plan, and prospective staff interviewees will be asked to provide information, the types of information and data that will be compiled and analyzed in preparation for a final report to be issued in December of 2023. I would like to qualify that this is intended to be a lessons learned and a best practice that the FTA will leverage as we go forward in case there's a notice of potential rulemaking or things along those lines, due to the fact, as you may be aware, that here in the United States, it's a collective problem as it relates to keeping assets in a state of good repair, hence the effectuation of the bipartisan infrastructure law that focused on infrastructure. On Wednesday, July 19th, I attended a meeting of the American Public Transportation Association's Awards Committee, of which I was appointed a member by the APTA chair for a 3-year term that commenced last year in 2022. The committee convenes annually to deliberate over nominees for APTA's annual awards program, recognizing excellence in the public transportation industry. APTA Award winners are outstanding role models of excellence, leadership, and innovation, whose accomplishments have greatly advanced public transportation and demonstrates APTA's core values of leadership, integrity, excellence, diversity, inclusiveness, fairness, equity, teamwork, professionalism, and accountability. On Monday, July 17th, Chair Geisinger and our Chief Financial Officer, Doug McLeod, and I met with State Auditor Carrie Hunter and members of her staff to conduct an entrance conference to review the parameters of a 2023-2024 routine performance audit of RTD-related fiscal governance. The audit plan will be developed this summer with field work to commence in the fall, culminating in a legislative audit committee hearing and subsequent issuance of a final audit report. We anticipate to be a year from now in the summer of 2024. Under customer excellence, we heard about the Gang of 19 plaque rededication. And I would like to thank the chair and directors Williams, as well as Rosenthal and Guzman, for being there for that monumental and historic event. It really filled my tank to be a part of such a commemorative and historical event. So thank you all. And relation to the strategic priority of employee ownership, Chair Geisinger touched upon this, but I'd like to acknowledge staff publicly and extend my genuine thanks and appreciation for their Herculean efforts in developing and delivering transit service over the course of the week of July 16th. It took a myriad of people. While we talk about service delivery and operations, we're talking about RTD-PD, we're talking about marketing and communications, we're talking about a plethora of individuals. One thing's for certain, I would state that this appears to be the most significant transit service delivery undertaking that this agency has had. And coming into this organization, when I've asked the team and pushed the team and said, where are our operations plans and so forth, while we may have not traditionally done them in the sense, I have to acknowledge that we rallied around and we were able to develop these plans in such a way that we could put our best foot forward. And I think everybody is well cognizant of the fact that our best foot was showing mightily during the course of that weekend. And so as I shared with the board, through some written communique that I had sent to members of this organization, while we talk about customers or the Swifties attending Taylor Swift concerts, we also had the Rockies-Yankees games as well. And recognizing that Friday and Saturday and Sunday, with a myriad of other sporting entertainment and leisure activities throughout the metro area, we were doing a lot with less. And we saw that because RTD's web traffic during that period was significantly higher throughout the weekend in comparison to the prior week. With the Zero Fare for Better Air initiative still underway through the end of August, I am optimistic that we will see new and returning customers alike to our network. And it's a viable option. As we talk about remote work, we are repurposing ourselves because people like to get out, socialize, and go to activity centers, as I qualify them. So there's a lot more activities to be undertaken by the means of our system in the coming weeks and months to come. And last, but certainly not least, I would be remiss not to acknowledge somebody sitting in the back, Henry Stoppelkamp, our Assistant General Manager of Capital Programs, who will soon be enjoying a well-deserved retirement following nearly a quarter of a century here at RTD. So, Henry, I extend to you my deepest appreciation for dedication, commitment, your candor, work product, and his leadership for the capital programs team. His last day, official duty in the office will be Friday, July 28th, while he still will be in and out. Henry's tenure as the AGM of capital programs, as most of you are aware, coincided with an era of rapid expansion for the transportation district, during which time the agency opened several light rail and commuter rail lines and completed a myriad of other transit service-related infrastructure projects. Henry was involved in each of these endeavors and contributed greatly to these initiatives and the agency's overall success. Stepping into the role of acting assistant general manager of the capital programs department will be Joyson Vishwakarma, who has served as RTD's chief engineer since November of 2015. I am certain that all of you directors who have had the opportunity to work with Jyotsna during her tenure at RTD will recognize that the Capital Programs Department will remain in good hands during this time of transition. So Henry, thank you very much for making lives better through connections. And with that, Madam Chair, I conclude my report and yield the floor.
Thank you very much, Ms. Johnson. And Mr. Stoppelkamp, I think you could see by the standing ovation that that all of us here share Ms. Johnson's appreciation, and I think so many of us have appreciated your assistance and deep knowledge over the years that we've been here, and thank you for all your service. We appreciate it. All right, item 16. Public hearing for the 2023 amended budget. I hereby call to order the public hearing on the Regional Transportation District's amendment to the adopted budget for the year 2023. In accordance with both RTD's requirements and local government statutes, notice of the public hearing was duly posted on the Board of Directors website and published in 2 major daily newspapers of the district prior to this meeting. I'd like to point out that the testimony will be limited to the subject of the public hearing, and presentations of testimony should be no longer than 3 minutes. Written testimony should be emailed to the board office at rtd.boardoffice@rtd-denver.com for distribution to the board. The 2023 amended budget was included in the electronic packet for the board and public to review. Speakers should begin their remarks by stating their names, and they will have up to 3 minutes to provide their comments. Has anyone raised their hand to speak? Okay. With no speakers, we will close the 23. Is there anybody else? No, okay. The public hearing for the 2023 amended budget at this time. The 2023 amended budget is for the Board of Directors to adopt the resolution series of number blank, series of 2023 to amend and appropriate funds to decrease the 2023 amended budget by $117.2 million to $2,092.9 million. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
I hear Director Busick as the movement, and I believe Director Tisdale as the second. Is there any discussion on this motion? No? Okay. I'll now call for the vote. Are there any no votes on this action? All right, with 15 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstention, the motion passes. And we are done with our public hearing. Our next item, item number 17, is our unanimous consent agenda. There's 6 items on the unanimous consent agenda listed under section 17, actions B through G. Those items are the 2022 annual comprehensive financial report and report to governance, the certificates of participation series 2013A refunding, the fast tracks bonds series 2019A and 2021A refunding, Title VI fair equity analysis, the September 2023 Title VI service equity analysis, and the 2024 Public Transportation Agency Safety Plan, or the PTASP. First of all, I'd just like to say the committees have done yeoman's work. There's a lot in this packet, and it's all come through. The first item was through the Audit Committee, and then the other items came through the Finance and Planning, or the Safety and Operations and Safety Committee. Has anybody, if anyone has a change to, discussion on, or questions about these items, feel free to advise the chair at this time, and I'll be happy to pull it from the unanimous consent agenda for consideration as a recommended action. Is there any such request? Okay, seeing none. May I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
I heard Director Broom as the movement, and Director Williams as the second. You can't have a third, sorry. Are there any no votes on this action? Okay. With 15 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstention, The consent agenda passes. We are now up to our 3 recommended actions, item 18. There are 3 recommended actions listed as section 18, actions H, I, and J. The first action is for item H, the fare structure. For the Board of Directors to adopt the fare structure recommendations from the system-wide fare study and equity analysis. Okay.
Second.
Okay. I heard Director yeah, so that's an arm wrestle. I heard Director Tisdale as the movement and Director Guzman as the second. Is there any discussion on this motion? And I will start off by saying that I was the one who requested that we pull this off of the consent agenda. We have a lot of really great work on the consent agenda tonight, but this one, I think, for reasons that have been stated earlier and that we all have stated at various points along the way, as Director Tisdale's so well stated, it's historic, it's monumental, we have lowered fares, we've simplified fares. Kudos to Ms. Johnson, to our planning staff, to our finance staff, all of the people who have worked so hard to put this together, you know, to come out with some of the things we've come out with where we have lowered fares. We have a unbelievable $27 monthly pass for people who are entitled to discounts through other ways, the LIVE program, people with disabilities, people over 65. We are expanding the LIVE program and embarking on a program to market it and bring more people into it. We've brought back the transit assistant grants, or brought on transit assistant grants so that nonprofits can work with others. And we are kicking off a pilot, it looks like, we have to offer 0 fares for youth through age 19. So bravo, I think we all share this, and I wanted to take a moment to appreciate it and to ask Ms. Johnson to say a few words as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the opportunity. As I sit here, I can think it was nearly 3 years ago when I ventured out here and I needed a decoder ring to figure out these fares. And when I was engaging with a myriad of different groups, be they elected officials, you all or your predecessors in some instances, as well as customers, community members, or employees, it seemed as if this was a universal pain point for that very diverse audience. And Director Busick probably remembers vividly with me coming on board here, and we were doing the inline promotional fairs, and there was a little discontent relative to stopping that pilot. And I delved in a little deeper and said, well, basically, we have to ensure that we're doing a fare study and an equity analysis. You just can't do a pilot for a period of time and not be able to look at the network holistically. With that, when I brought it forward to a myriad of different people, they're like, oh, that'll take too long. Well, here we are. I mean, the days still elapse, and now at the end, we have the culmination of a fare structure that is of great benefit to a myriad of people. I would be remiss not to acknowledge members of the team that leaned into the moment, that were able to embrace this concept and going above and beyond, something this transit agency had not done before with an equity analysis. As we leveraged community-based organizations, we brought them on board so we could ensure that we heard from oftentimes the voiceless. It was paramount that we brought into this room, which is the boardroom, the voice from the bus stop. And so recognizing the 21 safe harbor languages, how we came to you and actually revamped the timeline because we wanted more robust engagement that I believe has yielded a stellar structure that focuses on 3 main goals: equity, simplicity, and affordability. So thank you very much for trusting me to shepherd this endeavor. Thank you to the myriad of people at this organization that made this come to fruition. I think we are on a trajectory, as people have asked the questions, as we talk about what are we going to do with the budget shortfall. As we all know, we have a $1 billion budget. And while fares are important to this organization, they don't basically cover our operating expenses. So when you think about it, it's not far-fetched to believe that we can garner more ridership that would help balance this out when we think about what our fare recovery ratio is, because right now we're about at 6% when we think about our overarching budget. And for all intents and purposes, I do have a fiduciary responsibility, so I'm not making light of this, but my team knows often I say that's budget dust, because we have the opportunity to really provide value. And when you provide value, you have the opportunity to yield more promoters. So with that, Madam Chair, thank you all. Thank you to our stellar RTD team that spans the gamut, especially as we talk about transit equity. You know, in reference to Carl Green, leveraging his experience from TriMet as we came full circle to actually utilize different ways in which we could garner more advanced communication and engagement. So thank you very much, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to offer those comments.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Director Williams.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Ms. Johnson. I think the one word we admitted is probably the overarching word for everything, which is accessibility. And this makes, what we are discussing makes transit more accessible in a huge variety of ways. I have been overwhelmed with people asking, is it really going to happen? And I think that when you think that somebody who is an older adult, which is the appropriate term, can ride the bus for $27 a month, I've been surrounded by people who are, I'm sure, all watching and listening to make sure that it does happen. Thank you all. Thank you, Mr. Soroy, Mr. Quinn, Mr. Davis, everybody who worked on this so hard.
Thank you, Director Williams. Director Whitmore.
Thank you, Madam Chair. While I would never want or attempt to speak for my colleagues present or in the past, I know many of us, upon our arrival here as board members, kind of scratched our heads with the thought, can't this be simpler? It's difficult, and that makes a very tough marketing situation when you're trying to recruit new riders. So with that said, I can't, give enough glorious accolades. I don't have the words, but I do know that there's a lot of faces in this room that worked diligently for several years on this matter, and probably 100 more employees or more. There's been hundreds of inputs from our constituents and our local governments, and the enthusiasm and the sincerity that they all took to assist us was monumental and really a team effort. So I congratulate my former colleagues, my colleagues, certainly a hearty congratulations to the staff for this monumental accomplishment. And to quote poorly Director Tisdale, it is time to celebrate for our constituents, and what I'm really pleased about is this is a great recruitment tool for new constituents, which we all know we need to have to make this organization all that it can be. So congrats, and thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Director Whitmore. Director Davidson.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. CEO and General Manager Johnson, thank you for the leadership on this. You get things done. You've gotten a lot done for this agency, and this is tremendous value to our customers and to our community. Sincerely, thank you for having a bias to action and taking this problem and developing a solution. Thank you to our entire team. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't thank the Federal Transit Administration for the tremendous support through an awful time in history. And this shows what support for transit can do. Thanks to the work of this team, we managed that funding very well. By any stretch of the imagination, we should be far worse off as an agency after having gone through what we did in the pandemic. Instead, we are stable. We heard some thoughtful comments from a community member this evening, Mr. Van Dorne, about concerns of budget. We can support this. We are sustainable, and that is thanks to support for transit, which we absolutely need this state, this federal government, all of our local cities to do. We need to continue to be good stewards of this money, and I can't help myself. We need to look for opportunities to diversify revenue because we are dependent on one single source of revenue, which again, this just emphasizes. But again, I cannot say it enough. Thank you to this entire team, and Ms. Johnson, thank you for that bias towards action.
Thank you. Director Catlin.
Thank you. And thank you, Director Davidson, for saying so eloquently what was on my mind. I truly am very, very pleased to celebrate this achievement, and kudos to GM CEO Johnson and staff for all your hard work and such a thorough equity analysis that really, really supports this decision tonight. My hope is, as GM CEO Johnson suggests, that this increase in ridership that we hope to achieve through these actions will indeed result in additional revenue that will yield to sustainability for this program. And that I mentioned that in committee, that was one of my main concerns, but I'm cautiously optimistic that that will work. So thank you, everybody. And I just wanted to say that having a fare reduction is really monumental. And some of you all who are familiar with E470 know that E470 lowered its toll rates 2 years ago and just got great customer support and political support for lowering its fare rate. They increased their customer base and just got so much positive attention, both from the public and other elected officials. And it's my hope that we deserve and will receive the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Catlin. Director Guzman.
With the permission of my board members, I will not speak in English. I'll say my comments in Spanish. Tengo que agradecer a toda la gente de RTD que hizo esta investigación y esta pesquisa de información, trayéndonos a ese momento histórico. Fue muy interesante como uno nuevo escuchar que nunca hemos hecho esto antes. Entonces, para mi gente hispanohablante, mi gente latina, la única cosa que les puedo pedir con fuerzas, por favor, es ponerse en la guagua, ponerse en los trenes y atiende esto, porque cuando yo era niño era 50 centavitos a llegar en la guagua y desafortunadamente no vamos a volver a estos precios. Pero de disminuir el gasto de la tarifa es una cosa inmensa para nuestra gente que utiliza este servicio público. Entonces, a nosotros nos toca cuidar, aumentar nuestra participación en el sistema enteramente, en toda la región de RTD, en todos los distritos en donde ustedes están viajando al trabajo. Y no se olvida que fue en este momento que nosotros tuvimos una voz aquí en la mesa. Nos invitaron y nos escucharon y traducieron sus palabras para los que no entendían a poner atención a lo que nos sirva como gente. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Thank you,
Dr.
Director
Guzman, can you
Guzman.
translate that for those who don't speak Spanish?
I'll try to remember what I said. It was very well thought out in
You can
Spanish.
just do it
The
briefly
basic
if you
idea is
want.
that for the Hispanic community, the Spanish-speaking community primarily, to remember that the work that's done here today is historic. And although we'll never go back to 50-cent tarifas, fares, that the reduction now requires us to participate in the system all throughout the region, in every single district. And for my gente, for my people to remember that their voice was heard in this process. A lot of voices were heard in this process. And so now it is incumbent upon us to participate and put in the fare so that we can get on the bus and get on the train and go where we need to go, because this was done for all of our community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Guzman. That was great. Director Rosenthal.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And to build on some of what our colleagues have said, this is definitely monumental. This is historic. This is a huge leap in the right direction. Kudos to our general manager, entire staff, everyone for all their hard work. This is lowering fares. This is simplifying fares. If you look at taking out the regional fare, And I think most dramatic is the pass structure restructuring and lowering from the $114 at the local level and the $200 at the regional and airport level. That is going to be a huge assistance to folks who are going about their business, doing a lot of travel on our rail and buses, and particularly at the airport. And as you know, that's a huge driver. The biggest driver of economic activity in probably the Rocky Mountain region is the airport. And but it's also building on the efforts of the general manager and her staff. Recently doing an agreement expanding the use of passes at the airport. And so this is really hand in glove and another effort to try to assist both definitely the folks at the airport, making sure we have workers able to get out there, and also folks traveling to and from the airport. So so a little plug for that element of this new plan. So thank you so much to everybody who worked on this, and really very proud of you and very thankful.
Thank you, Director Rosenthal. Director Harwick, if you don't mind, I'm going to take Director Rusha on online. Director Rusha.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And again, I do apologize for the video, still having tech issues that we're trying to work out. I actually just had a clarifying question. So I don't mind going last, and I will leave that up to you.
That's fine. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Madam Chair. I did ask a question via email earlier if the low-income farers, our LIVE program customers, would be able to use cash on board. And I was told yes, and I should have been more specific. I meant, would they be able to use cash and still receive the discount? Because that's not something that I believe is currently in our board packet. So I'm just seeking a clarification from staff.
What discount? Well, I'll just turn that over to Ms. Johnson.
So thank you very much, Madam Chair. Director Rusha, if you can qualify which discount, because we have a myriad of discounts. There's some for those that are 65 and better. There's others for those with disabilities. So if you could qualify, I'd be more than happy to address your question.
Yes, so in this fares proposal for low-income fares enrollees, right, whose discount will extend to 50%, all of our discounts will then be the same. My question was, for our low-income pass enrollees, will they be able to show their pass and pay cash and receive their discounts? In the board packet, it suggests that is not so, and I am just seeking clarification from staff.
Thank you very much, Director Rusha. Deborah Johnson, General Manager and CEO, and I will address your question. So for clarity's sake, yes, RTD will offer cash on vehicle payments for LIVE customers, and will also offer tickets at TVM. So if some were boarding, they would use their LIVE ID and show that to the operator of said vehicle and then pay said fare.
Does that answer your question, Director Rusha? Anything else?
Yes, thank you. That answers my question, and that's great to hear. I know that that has been raised before and I don't think that was clear in previous communications. So that's wonderful. And I also had a question regarding understanding that there will be a time frame to fully roll out the LIVE program changes, because it will take the state some time to update the back end on Colorado Peak, which is how one currently applies. I just wanted to ask if the rollout for Accessoride, which will now be included in the low-income fares pass if one qualifies, is on that same schedule. And in the memo we got today, it was targeted for February 25th, 2024. So will that also be the same for Accessoride customers who will be able to qualify? Will that be the same date?
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes, please.
We want to ensure that this is simplistic for all. It would be in our best interest to roll everything out in tandem, recognizing that we have to do reconfigurations and things of the like outside of the state of Colorado. There's other entities with whom we have to engage. So optimally, we would like to have a specific date that's in alignment whereby it could be all fairs. As indicated to the Operations and Safety Committee, we will keep this body apprised of a targeted timeline, but for all intents and purposes, in a utopian society, we want to make sure that the dates are all the same. At this juncture, I can't state unequivocally that will happen if in fact the state is delayed with their timeline. We wouldn't want to hinder other portions of our system. So with that, I would ask you to stay tuned as we have further information forthcoming. But rest assured, our ultimate goal is to have this leveraged in the first quarter of 2024. I think that's the safest way I could qualify it at this point in time. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson. Anything else, Ms. Rusha?
No, that satisfies my questions, and I appreciate the clarifications. I also just again want to state that I am excited. It sounds like that a customer will be able to produce their ID card and pay cash and still receive the Live discount. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Harwick?
Thank you. I have sort of just a variety of thoughts, but I'm so excited about this, and I'm really excited to be a part of it. And while I wasn't here at the beginning of it, I'm really excited to be here at the end.
You don't have to do anything.
Well, I got at least to own it. But for me, as I represent Arvada, and Arvada has one of the largest aging communities in the metro area. Some of our programs, the Live program in particular, I think will be great for our community. And I really feel that it's incumbent upon, our community, my community partners to get on board and help bring this into reality. Because if my community doesn't get on board, then a lot of people don't gain access to it. So I'm really hoping that we really see great community collaboration in this, because it's really pretty fantastic, and everybody should get on board, because literally everybody needs to get on board. Arvada, get on board. All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you, Director Harwick. Director Broom?
Thank you, Madam Chair. When I first got on this board, one of the questions that I would get from a lot of people would be, well, how much does it cost to ride on RTD? Well, it depends.
Yeah.
So, it seemed to me like our fare system was so complicated that it was ridiculous. And thinking back years and years and years ago, I grew up in a little town of about 250 people, and obviously we didn't have mass transit. And so on vacation one year, we went to New York, and I rode on the subway system, and all you needed was this little token, And I was thinking, why can't we have a little token in Denver? Thank you.
Thank you, Director Broom. Director Rusha, your hand is still up. Is that just a remnant?
No, ma'am, just a terrible habit of asking too many questions. I have no further questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, wonderful. I'll now call for the vote. Are there any no votes on this action? Nope. You don't want a roll call? All right. I'll do a roll call. Hang on. Let me get back to my roll. Director Bouquet. Uh-oh. He'll be right back, I'm sure. We'll come back to him. Director Broom.
Yes.
Director Busick.
Yes.
Director Catlin.
Yes.
Director Davidson.
Yes.
Director DeShell.
Yes.
Director Guzman.
Sí, yes.
Director Harwick.
Yes.
Director Rosenthal.
Yes.
Director Rusha.
Yes.
Director Sloan,
Yes.
Director Tisdale,
Yes.
Director Whitmore,
Aye.
Director Williams,
A mí también, absolutamente.
Director Bouquet.
Yes.
And I am a yes, Lynn Geisinger, with 15 yeses and 0 nos. We are happy to pass this change in our fare structure. Thank you. Okay, our second recommended action is the September 2023 service change. For the Board of Directors to approve the September 2023 service change as revised and summarized in Attachment A, and to authorize the General Manager and CEO or her designee to execute contract amendments as necessary for private operators impacted by these changes. Do we have a motion?
So move, Bouquet.
All right, I heard Director Bouquet.
Second.
Second from Director Whitmore. Is there discussion on this motion? Nope. All right. I will call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Okay. With 15 yes votes.
Director Rusha.
Sorry.
Oh, your hand wasn't up a minute ago. Director Rusha, are you a no vote?
No, no, ma'am, I apologize. I was asking if I could make a comment before we voted,
Okay.
and I had no way to wave my hand in front of the video.
Your hand wasn't raised, but go ahead. Go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you, Madam Chair. So I did read all of the comments. I do agree with the conclusion of this service change. And I did read all of the comments. However, we did receive some feedback months ago that we no longer include all of the comments regarding service change in public document. They're summarized, which is very helpful for us as a board, I think, and for the public, but some comments might have been omitted. And so I asked the board staff if they could get me any other comments that might not have made it into the packet. And I appreciate, I was able to get the comments, including the fact. And so I would just ask on the record, and it doesn't have to be answered right now. So maybe it's rhetorical, but if we could in the future go back to including all of the public comments in the record before we vote on these service changes. Transit's a lot of things for a lot of people, and for some folks it really is a lifeline. Sometimes there are a lot of comments, we might not be able to read them all. I understand that, but I think if someone takes the time to come down to Blake Street or go online and fill out a comment about a service change proposal or something they'd like to see, then we can afford the respect of publishing that comment in full, just like we do all others. I will be a yes. I am a yes. Please do not record my vote as a no. But I just wanted to state that and politely ask that we consider going back to the old way. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Is there a response? Do you have anything to say, Ms. Johnson?
Yes, thank you very much, Madam Chair, and thank you, Director Rusha, for the comments set forth. I want to qualify and manage expectations. I'm amenable to including comments, but I believe I'd be remiss not to qualify for the body that oftentimes prior to submitting this to the board office, we just had a meeting and we're synthesizing documents. So we would have to back up that process, but recognizing that we provided comments this evening, there could be a way in which we don't have them available for the committee meeting, but there could be the potential of having them available when the board considers it as a whole. So it just depends on the timing of the meetings when they're scheduled, recognizing that this is a long lead time in relationship to what we need to do relative to ensuring that we are providing ample time for our frontline members of the organization to bid on assignments and things of the like. So just wanted to put that out there. We will work diligently to see if we can accommodate this request. Most likely, we would not be able to incorporate them into the committee meetings. However, there could be an opportunity to provide that thereafter, and I will confer with the team as relates to a reasonable schedule, because we do want to receive public comment, and that's why they've been synthesized. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Did you have anything further, Director Rusha? No, it looks like your hand is down. Was there some? Oh, it's Director Bouquet.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I guess my question regarding that would be, I'm not sure how the protocol goes, would be giving the public advance notice that your comments would be used in the record ultimately. I guess that would be the only thing that I would question with that process. I'm sure many people would be okay with their comments being used in it, but again, making sure that when people actually speak at these events, making sure that we're getting their permission to use their comments. That would be my own.
I think they're anonymized, aren't they?
Oh, are they?
No, oftentimes they're not. Somebody's submitting their comments and they're coming in. It's no different from a public commenter at this meeting that stated their name and their address. So they are cognizant that they're providing comments and that there is the opportunity for those to be put forward to this body, because you are engaging in an active discussion relative to input received. And they're in the documents that we have now. There's names attributed to said comments.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Director Williams.
I believe off the top of my head that in the beginning of all of our meetings, we state that you public comment and you commit to being recorded and you say who you are. And if you don't want to speak, then you can submit them in writing. I believe we make that a statement and always have in a legal sense. So we can double check that, I'm sure, but it's not anything different than has ever been done.
Okay. Great. Thank you. Are there, with that, we'll take the vote. Are there any no votes on this motion? Seeing none, we have 15 yes votes, 0 no votes, and 0 abstention. The motion passes. The final action on recommended action for us tonight is item J, accessoride call center contract, for the Board of Directors to authorize the General Manager and CEO or her designee to enter into a contract with First Transit, Inc. for the provision of accessoride call center services for 3 years, with 2 one-year options for a total of 5 years at a not-to-exceed cost of $22,908,556.35. Do we have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
Director Broom is the movant and Director Williams is the second. Is there discussion on this motion? No. All right. Seeing none, I'll call for the vote. Are there any no votes? Director Rusha, is this for discussion?
No, ma'am, it is a no vote.
It is a no vote. Okay. Any other no votes? Okay. We have, with 14 yes votes, 1 no vote, and 0 abstentions, the motion passes. The no vote was Director Rusha. All right. Item 19, discussion items. There are no discussion items for tonight's agenda. So we will move on to the report of director activities. Would anyone like to report on their activities this month? Director Tisdale.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I just wanted to say that I appreciated very much the attendance of our new Transit Board Administrator, our executive manager of our board, Mr. Jack Kroll, at the APTA TBM TBA seminar in Birmingham, Alabama, that I chaired last week. Everyone appreciated the opportunity to meet our new Transit Board Administrator, as we call them at APTA. I advised Mr. Kroll that he did have big shoes to fill at APTA because Barbara McManus had become very active with the committee, but he was very well received, and I think it was a great opportunity. And then one other thing I wanted to report, because it may at some point get out, because it's public knowledge, that I am flying on Monday to New Zealand to spend 3 weeks in New Zealand and Australia on an APTA transit study mission for the American Public Transportation Association. And I want to assure everyone, RTD is not spending one dime for me to go to Australia and New Zealand for 3 weeks, just for the sake of the record, in case the question should ever arise.
The rest
Thank you,
of us
Madam
all
Chair.
donated to that trip.
Thank you, Director Tisdale. Director Whitmore.
Yes, just want to briefly mention that Directors Rosenthal and Guzman and myself participated in the Accelerate Colorado congressional fly-in back in late June. It's a wonderful experience. Second time that I've been able to go. Obviously, we appreciate meeting with our congressional delegation, met with almost all of them, and it's very productive. But perhaps more importantly is a networking opportunity with business people and local government leaders from across the Front Range. There were a number of commissioners from Adams, Arapahoe, Clear Creek, a couple others, I think, a number of elected officials from local municipalities, and then a tremendous amount of business entities there. So time well spent. We appreciate the ability to participate in that event and would encourage others. I'm sure Directors Rosenthal and Guzman would echo my comments. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Director Whitmore. All right. Are there any other matters anyone wants to bring to the board? I see Director Rusha first and then Director Catlin.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I thought I would just do a quick director report if I may. I visited with the National Federation of the Blind Aurora chapter this weekend, and it was a wonderful time. I spent several hours with that group, always delightful. And I wanted to share a quick story. I was speaking with some of our blind transit riders, and I was advised, as you heard earlier, that the sound quality and some of the tech that we use on our transit system could be improved. And as many of you know, I have significant hearing loss. And it was described to me as tinny. And I started laughing a bit because all these years, I thought it was just me, that I couldn't understand what the synthesized voice was saying because I cannot hear very well. And it turns out that might be the experience for everyone. Now, for me, I rely on my sight to navigate our system, as do many of you and probably most of us in the boardroom. But for others who are relying on their hearing, it becomes all the more important. And so it did take a blind man to bring attention to a near-deaf director's knowledge that it actually wasn't her. Truly, people can't hear. And it made me chuckle a bit, and I just wanted to share it out because I think the moral of the story is sometimes we don't know until we know. But I will also give our GM CEO, and I hope she doesn't mind, I give her a call out, some credit because I did advise her of this conversation and she said she would look into it to see what could be done. But at any rate, I wanted to share, and I hope, I can't see everyone in the boardroom, but I hope the irony at least gives everyone a smile. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Rusha, and we appreciated the comments earlier from Mr. Chong and Ms. Johnson looking into it. Director Catlin.
Thank you. Are we on other matters?
Yeah, we are on other matters,
Okay.
yes. Sorry.
I just wanted to thank Director Williams for asking Director Guzman to restate what his comments about the fair and equity analysis in English, because I unfortunately do not speak Spanish. But your message was important, and that you were appealing to your community to go out and use it now. Now that this is affordable and simpler, and it's an equity program, and as Kate said, it was accessible, that you are imploring your community to participate. And I would ask all of us to ask our community to participate as well, as passionately as Director Guzman did to his community in Spanish. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Great. Any other matters? Seeing none, we are finished. We do not have meetings, standing committee meetings or board meeting in August. We will be back here for the next board meeting on September 26th at 5:30. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, McKay.
All right.
Second.
The meeting is adjourned at 7:25 PM. Thanks for joining us.